I was watching a documentary the other day about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Yes, it's true. I am a big fan of science fiction, Star Trek, Star Wars, superhero movies, you name it. Science fiction, I've probably watched it. I've probably binged watched it or whatever. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed to say that I am a fan of these things because I gain a lot of insight. I gain a certain perspective when I watch this stuff. So when I watch documentaries or movies or TV shows, I'm always looking for life lessons. I'm always looking for business lessons. And when I was watching this documentary on Deep Space Nine called What We Left Behind, there were some things about it that shocked me and things about it that encouraged me. One that I found shocking is that people didn't like the show. I had no idea there was such hate for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Why didn't I know there was so much hate? Because I loved the show. I loved the show. And what was odd, I loved the show for the things that people were saying they hated about the show. Which goes to show you that if you're going to be a creator, this is one of the lessons I learned. If you're going to be creators, if you're going to create, you have to be prepared for the criticism. See, criticism is stopping many people from creating. So those who are watching the video, you could be someone who's sitting on an idea. You could be someone who's sitting on a book. You could be someone who's sitting on a movie or a video because you're afraid of the criticism that you're going to get, that people may not like it. And this show, Deep Space Nine, had 6 seasons. And over the course of 6 seasons, I don't know how many episodes that is, but that's a lot of episodes. And they continue to put out great show, great content, and do what they believe. They were doing what they believe they should do with the show, regardless of the audience's approval or recognition, because they had a vision for what the show should be. They had a vision for what the show should do. And because of that, which was interesting about this, looking back on it, over 20 years since the show's been off the air. Now, 20 years later, because of what that show was able to do, it what led to a new genre of television. Before, TV episodes had to be contained. With you start the show and you finish the story all within one episode. And they created a concept called serialization. So you had to follow the series of shows. You couldn't miss an episode. Well, before, we had streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and whatever, HBO Max, whatever. People weren't binging stuff. So now that people are binging stuff, there's a lot of stuff that follows that pattern, that each episode connects to the next episode. But they were breaking the mold when they did that. They were breaking the mold by having a black man as the captain. They were breaking the mold by having so many women in leading roles and so many people of color on the show. Black people interacting with these. It was all these things that they were doing were different. And what's wild, when they were going through the documentary, they had people, the actors, actually reading the hate mail. And I was fascinated by the hate mail that people were writing. Because number one, they took the time to write the mail. Like, why would you, I don't know. Just change the channel. If you don't like what you're watching, just change the channel. But why am I sharing this with you? What does this mean to us? What it means to us is that, number one, if you're going to create, there will be people who won't like what you create. Number two, when you create, your creation may not be accepted for its full greatness at the time that you create it. So the show is 20 years later, and after 20 years, the show is now becoming recognized for its groundbreaking efforts. It's now being recognized by fans as a trendsetter. It's now being recognized by fans as a show that was truly meaningful and dealt with issues that the other shows didn't deal with. But it took 20 years for the show to get its recognition. Many artists are never appreciated in their lifetime. They're never recognized for their greatness in their lifetime. So the question would be, what if the artist didn't create? What if they didn't actually do what they were called to do? What if they didn't share their work with the world and they kept it to themselves because they were afraid of the criticism? Then the rest of us would just have missed out on the greatness. The rest of us would have missed out on the genius. The rest of us would have missed out on their true purpose. So what are you holding back? What are you holding on to that you are not sharing with the world because you're afraid of the criticism, or you're afraid that people are not going to appreciate it or like it, whatever it might be. So I was encouraged by watching the documentary because it helped me realize that things do not have to be perfect in order to be released. It helped me realize that things don't have to be received by everyone. It has to just be received by the people who it's meant to receive it. Like, I loved the show, and I would have been, missing a certain thing. The show gave me inspiration. The show gave me hope. The show was entertaining, to see these characters being played in such significant positions within Starfleet, because I hadn't seen it before. So my main reason for sharing this with you today, 31 Days of Sharing, Jerry Franklin Poe, coming to you live again throughout the month of December with these 31 days of sharing, is just to encourage you to not hold on to your ideas, to share them, to encourage you to let the creative energy that you have be released into the world, to encourage you to know that there's a quote that I heard from Larry Wingett once. It said that my ugly book is better than the book that you don't have. So whatever you create, it may not be as great or as perfect or as someone else's, but the key is to take action, to get it out there, and to let people know that you exist. To let people know you exist. That is the whole purpose of you being a creator. So with that, my friends, be valiant, be vigilant,